So, first of all, Happy New Year, guys. This is going to be the first video of the new year, and of course, why wouldn't we start this off with a tier list? Now, this is going to be, to specify, this is going to be a solo tier list. This is not going to talk about duos or squads. This is specifically going to be talking about the ranked solos environment. So, if that is what you're interested, well, you came to the right place. If you're looking for teams, I apologize. I am not exactly a team gamer. I don't know exactly how I would talk about teams, to be quite frank. I don't play a lot of it. I usually play quite casually, but I do play ranked pretty competitively. So, you know, for example, when ranked solos dropped, I hit like top 10, top 15, top 20, some shit like that, NA. Until my queues became so abysmal, I just kind of stopped playing it. I do plan on just doing it again with a like Shoichi only account because if you know and you do follow me on Twitch over at twitch.tv/TopSourcer, it will be on the screen right there. You can, that link will be down in the description below. It'll also be pinned. Just check it out. You know, I play a ton of Shoichi, so kind of want to just have fun with that, see how high I can take him. I don't think it's exactly too great, which you'll see here my opinion on that very soon. But you know, I want to just talk about that. And also, for anybody who's not subscribed to the channel, before we do get into this tier list, please do sub to the channel. We post daily content. I know we've been a little bit slow lately because the holidays, school things are coming up. I had to slow down just a little bit, but I do have a lot of things planned for the channel really soon. We're gonna get back to the meta videos really soon. We're gonna have one probably coming out tomorrow. You know, for those who are interested in that, click the subscribe button. We'd love to have you here. And if you don't, well, I'm going to hunt you down in Forest. I promise you. I know every single one of you who watch this video. I will hunt you down in Forest. All right, enough shilling aside. The first thing we're going to be looking at over here is going to be our main girl, Jackie. So, when I'm looking in the context of a Solos environment, what I am looking for is characters that are very consistent. Characters that can get high placements, or at least reach that 2-3 kill threshold that you're going to need to be in the LP games, and then eventually, and sadly, I really do have to say, I hate that I have to say this, is characters that could rap really well. Characters that could run away, characters that have a ton of agency in fights, characters that can scale incredibly well, characters that can use RNG items incredibly well. Like, we're talking about characters that are very effective at picking fights, running away from fights, and can just pick fights whenever they choose to, right? So Jackie is kind of at the top of that list. Jackie is a very, very, very strong character, no matter how you do it. So, but if I were to put it in an order right now, two-handed, while being quite strong at the ratting department, is not exactly very good at getting kills. Two-handed can run away very well, can pick fights very well, but it's not very good at picking up kills. It can pick up early kills because you are Jackie, but it's a lot less effective than picking up kills, say, Axe. Dagger kind of falls in that same boat as two-handed, where, yeah, you can run away, but you can't really do a lot till late in the game. Late in the game, though, Dagger will be the best scaling one out of the three. Maybe two-handed is the better one if Dagger isn't able to pick up that Fragger Rush, but the trade-off here is Dagger does more damage, but two-handed is a lot more tankier, which, in my opinion, I think two-handed would probably be better in that regard. By the same token, Dagger is very safe because of the Dagger active, you know, giving the stealth and burst of move speed, and that extra auto attack reset crit, which is incredibly strong. So, if I were to put this in an order here, is going to probably be Axe is number one. Harp is incredibly overstated right now, and it is a build you're going to be seeing an absolute ton of. If you haven't been already, I did make a video on it not too long ago. It's actually what I used to climb to like silver 150 OP, which is why I mentioned like the top like 10 bracket earlier. This is a very, very strong build. You can pick up 2-3 kills easily in Avenue. You can just run away for the rest of the game if you have to. Just farm bears, farm the wolves, get some RNG drops, and you can pretty much utilize any of them to their full capabilities because you are Jackie still. So yeah, Axe is just going to be really good. And honestly, this could be any Axe. This could even be Santa Muerte if you care for it. Like, that's just kind of how Axe works. Very strong. If you're able to stay with Mastery, you're going to be doing quite good things. Dagger, I think quite honestly, pretty much every variation except Dioscuri is up here. I think Dioscuri is honestly really not great. Dual-handed Jackie is kind of just falling off of the metagame. I'll be honest with you, not a lot of people are routing to up-down anymore. Dioscuri just doesn't do a lot. The things that it normally was killing before just takes too long. It takes too long to get Rampage. The games you are able to get Rampage on and the characters you are able to use it against, it does feel okay. But I just haven't seen it in so long. It's so squishy. It's so susceptible to being kited out. Melee characters just really aren't fighting it if they have to. Like, the only real melee character stuck in that is kind of a Shoichi. But Shoichi could just kind of one-shot you in that regard. Like, the rest of them are just going to peel away and walk away from you. The other builds are just better. So I know it's like kind of weird saying a big gap between B and C. I just don't see Dioscuri doing anything. The two-handed memes just kind of just, or sorry, dual sword memes just kind of there. It doesn't feel too great. But the rest of the variants of Jackie are quite strong. I do think it's more like this if we're talking about ordering. But yeah, we gotta be ranting about Jackie for a while. Aya, our main girl. Okay, so this is really interesting. So again, like I mentioned, consistency, routing, and able to pick up those skills. So AR Aya does actually the last part really well, where if she is able to survive the early game, which for some reason I'm seeing an Aya who's doing this a ton on AR, if you're able to survive the early game, you're doing a lot of work. But your early game is abysmal, like quite literally abysmal. So that is the hard part here. But if you're able to get online, it is incredibly strong. And AR skill has been proven to be quite good and really annoying, especially if you're able to scale into the game. And good players are abusing that to somewhat of a good extent. So I don't know. It is very interesting to see ARI even being a thing. I haven't seen it enough, but the little bit I have seen, and every time I have seen it, has been very annoying to deal with. And I think just because of the early routing, just being how bad it is, or just how inconsistent it be, I can't see it being higher than B tier. I do think this is probably going to be something that will probably be very low B tier. Like, you can use it, you can have good success, but you need to be very passive and very careful what you can do, because it is a viable build. It is something that will pick up those couple kills you need late game, and it's something that could help you close the game without an absolute doubt. Like, it is just going to stat check people late game if you are able to survive to that point in the game, right? So I think we are going to put it B tier. It's probably going to move much lower on. I don't want to make all the tiers like we have done in the past. I don't think there's much of a reason to it. Most of the characters are pretty okay in balance right now, with a few very big outliers. Pistol Aya. So I don't think... Okay, here's like... I haven't seen Pistol Aya at all. Like, genuinely, no one's playing Pistol Aya on ladder. Granted, I have seen the same, like, 18 people every game. And... Thank you for the follow, buddy. I know you're not watching... I know it's not a stream right now. Appreciate the follow regardless. But Pistol Aya just isn't doing a whole lot. At least from what I'm seeing. It doesn't seem bad. I mean, pistol skill is still quite good. It's not broken. It has been buffed, and she did just receive a pretty big buff on her W. So I am curious to see where Aya is right now in terms of balance. But again, I always find it really hard to put Aya anywhere lower than A tier. She can pick up kills early game. She is very effective at running away. She has very great self-peel, and she has that like danger button of, you can't jump on me because I'm going to ult and W and one-shot you. And this goes for auto attack builds, this goes for elegance builds, this goes for hybrid builds. Aya is incredibly flexible in what she can do when she's on a pistol. I just don't feel like there's anybody who's actually enjoying her enough to spam her on the ladder, but this character is just honestly just still really quite good. And that passive just make her very tanky. It really just feels like she's just a better Emma right now, if that's the better way of looking at it. So I think I'm going to keep Aya in the A tier pretty confidently. I don't think... Pistol Aya has been... I mean, she's only been buffed. Pistol's been buffed twice in Spell Lamp. She has been very strong out to call that, picking those early kills. Very good at ratting. Very good at utilizing those Mithra items or meteorites or force cores. And I think she's still just in a really good spot. I don't think there's anything wrong with Aya right now. Sniper Aya is mostly a meme. It's going to go in C tier. You can do a couple things with it. Polaris being the factory killer that has been for a long time. Can work and can definitely get you those kills, but it falls off really fast. And it is susceptible to just like not really pumping out a ton of damage post mid game. I do think that it is okay. It's a build that you can run, and maybe something you should probably have in your pocket, but sniper skills are too great. And you know, just if you're not melting your opponent in one rotation, it doesn't feel too hot. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that this is probably going to stay where it is. And I don't think it's going to be moving up anytime soon. Sniper hasn't exactly gotten any buffs or loves of any kind, which I think is kind of justified, because if it was good, it would be really toxic. So I'm kind of fine with just keeping it where it is. Hyun, whoa. Hyun has been performing terribly. He got a pretty massive buff not too long ago, with his ulti being buffed, with a help out quite a bit late game, but he just doesn't really do a whole lot right now. Glove skill level 2 is still always going to be a factor, but no one is abusing Hyun. No one's really playing Hyun. Everyone's just kind of saying, you know, Hyun's not too great. And I am on the boat of like, yeah, Hyun is really just not a good character right now. I do think Hyun can pick up a couple kills early in the game, and he can rat in that department. I don't think he's so bad to the point where like, damn, you know what, this character is C tier. No, I think he's B, which to me, B is viable. Which maybe we should probably clarify that, just to make this the easiest thing. This is viable. This is somewhat viable. This is unviable. This is consistent. and this is OP. Okay, I think we're on the same page, right? Cool. So I think Hyun is viable right now, and then I mean Tom, let's be real, it's somewhat viable. It's not so bad to where you can't play. It is still Hyun. He does still have that agency in fights, still has a CC immunity in his W, still has a lot of damage early game, and Plasma Talfa is still a one zoner. So I do think this is where Hyun is going to be staying. This is going to be the biggest change in this patch. We have put Magnus pretty high for a while now. I think Magnus has been pretty lackluster. I do think that maybe Amp Magnus is a lot better than Bonk. Bonk just doesn't seem to be doing anything right now. Amp Magnus can pick up those skills early game, and he can peel very effectively. So Magnus has some of the best self-peel in the game, bar none. His EQ and ulti lets them all just self-peel really, really well. And I think Amp can pick up those kills where really Bonk Magnus can't. I think it's okay. You can run it if you so desire. And there's one guy who does run it with very good results, but at the same token, he's kind of just a guy who just teams a ton when ever given the opportunity. So I don't, you know, it's really hard to say like, yeah, this is really good. And it's just like, oh, well, he just kind of white flags everybody in teams. So I don't think that really says anything about Magnus itself. I think this is more like, hey, Solo sucks, and people need to stop teaming every fucking second of it. Which is why I'm getting really tired of Solos ranked, because people just only do this team, and it's really annoying. Alright, Fiora. Fiora is not being played, but let's be quite honest with each other. Spear Fiora is still pretty good. It's not bad in the slightest. There's really only one person piloting it to very good effective right now, and that is Ashians, and I don't even think he's been playing too much of it. It is definitely the best variant of Fiora. It's still going to do a ton of damage early, and if you are someone who can round it very, very effectively, you are going to be ahead of everybody by quite a decent margin and can pick up a lot of kills towards the end of your build. I highly recommend picking this up if you are into Fiora. I believe he is currently rented Genadin version of it, no longer the I forgot the name, like 250-foot long spear thing, whatever. But he's running Genadin. I know that for a fact. But it is very effective. It is very standard Fiora for what you've been seeing, you know, the full crit package with the laced quiver at the end of it. And it's very strong. Highly recommend trying it out. It's not really too much to say. Fiora's just been kind of Fiora for a while. If you do get the opportunity to get on somebody, well, you're probably going to deal a lot of damage, and you kind of just need to poke and weave out. Now, the only big change these days is that you put 1 point in your Q early on to get that defense shred / slow at the end of it. Otherwise, you can't really keep up with people, but you do need to be careful as you are quite squishy. But at the same token, most people are pretty squishy in the metagame right now, and it's not hard to get a ton of damage off within run rotation with Fiora. So that's kind of my thoughts on her right now. In terms of two-handed, it is somewhat viable. I do think this is objectively worse than just Spear. Spear active is something that I really don't want to get rid of on Fiora. It is a lot of the power that you want on the character just gone away, and not a big fan of it. And I don't think Rapier Fiora is very good. I know there's some people playing her right now with some success, but it's really hard to say this is any good. Rapier skill is inherently very strong, but you're losing out. I mean, just look at your other options. You're losing out on Spear active, you're losing out on Parry for just a gap closer. On a character who already has a gap closer, it's too much of an aggressive tool and no defensive utility behind it. On a character who already has no defensive utility in the slightest, besides her dash. So I'd rather just not have this, to be quite honest. At that point, you're just playing a much, much worse version of Spear, because Spear can already do that. Right? If I get on somebody, I could just Spear skill. And the same thing if I just press Rapier, and it's just going to give me the time to get my cooldowns back up. So I personally think that Rapier Fiora is not too effective right now. But as always, if you are a person who is very good on a character and knows how to play around their ins and outs, you could probably do quite well with it. Nadine. Nadine is really interesting. I don't think Bo Nadine is terrible. I do think it is in the somewhat viable section. Nadine has always been a character who can pick up a lot of kills early on into the game. I don't think it's very consistent though. Nadine, just by nature, is a feast or famine character. A character that could die 18th or get first. Nadine right now isn't exactly in the best place, but at the same time, she is still quite effective in a Solos environment. There is nothing wrong with her to the point where I'm just like, you know what, I probably wouldn't play this character. She's okay. But that's more the bow. Nadine crossbow is the one you're going to be seeing more of, which I do think is still in the viable section. And if I were to put it somewhere else, it's probably going to be, you know, somewhere like along this. Hyun would probably be down here. You're probably more like this, right? Probably more, yeah. Nadine is still quite good. Crossbow Nadine isn't half bad. Homecoming's been having a lot of success with Nadine, with pretty much going full gacha and super aggro early on, which I do think this is where Nadine's strongest point in the game is. Early on to the game, she can farm up a ton, she can fight a ton, she can, if she gets any mithril, meteorites, moonstone items, she is going to be ahead of you by a very large margin, and mastery as well. So Nadine is always the type of character where, again, feast or famine character, where if she is able to get what she needs, she's going to be very, very strong, but if she doesn't and is put behind, she is, well, she's just kind of out of the game. That is the line of playing Nadine, and that's kind of how it always works, sadly. But I do think this is where she is at the moment. In terms of Zahir has always been a viable character. In terms of how consistent he is, there's only really like 1% on ladder playing Zahir right now. Zahir's just never been a super popular choice, but that person is doing quite good with them. So it's very hard for me to say that he's somewhat viable when it is very clear that Zahir is putting out the results. And I do think this probably works very effectively for both versions of Zahir. Throw is still a very strong weapon, but Zahir doesn't exactly have that type of self-peel that other characters have. He does have a ton of damage. So if I'm going to be going with this, I'd probably say that there's a good chance that the Shuriken Zahir is going to be a lot better than Throw Zahir. You giving up a 2-zone for a 3-zoning weapon is not exactly something you want to do. And even though you do want to try to weave in those auto attacks with Zahir whenever possible, giving up Caltrops is kind of a bad idea. Caltrops is kind of just effectively another ultimate for you when you get those knockups, and you're not really one-shotting people like you used to. You're kind of just getting a lot of rotations in, and you're just poking people down until you're able to one-shot them. But early on to the game, when you do have that Azure Dagger online, you can one-shot people very effectively. So I do think you're going to be wanting to take on Shuriken pretty much at all times. I don't think there's really much of a reason to go throw on Zahir anymore, but hey, if that's what you're into, you know, who am I to stop you, right? Heart. Ooh, this one's good. I do think Heart is in the consistent tier. Heart is very, very strong. There's 2 builds that you can be playing on her right now. There's the Skill Lab variant and the ENAD variant, which I think they're both very strong at what they do. The ENAD variant does feel like it scales better, but the AMP one is disgusting amounts of burst, which limits the opportunity for people to third party. Which I think at that point, if you're able to limit people from third partying, you're kind of in a very good spot if you're able to kill your person and just walk away. So AMP Heart is specific, does a absolute ton of damage without actually having to like worry too much. Get some water. A little sip, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's with AMP Heart. With ENAD Heart, I think it's probably in the same boat. This really just gives you routing options, which is something you're definitely going to be wanting in any character, to be quite honest. But, what's it called? AMP is going to be a lot harder to route than ENAD for sure. It requires a lot of variations on your padding. Otherwise, it's just a very hard build to pilot properly. And I know that a lot of people definitely do struggle with it because of that reason. Like, it is not an easy build to pilot in the slightest. Whereas ENAD is a lot easier to pilot. It's very straightforward as well, where you just kind of just auto attack and use your E aggressively to chase people down or to run away. But also what Heart has going for her is that she's kind of just one of the best people to rat in this game. Her E is always up. She has a charm on her active. She had her ultimate resets fights. Her Q is a slow no matter what build you're going. So like at the end of the day, Heart is just going to be super, 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 super annoying to deal with. So it is very hard for me to put her anywhere other than A tier right now. She's just a very, very effective, annoying character. Very strong in the metagame. Highly recommend people picking her up. She is definitely being slept on quite a bit. Now this one's gonna be some spice. So I did say I disagreed with other people's placements on ISO. I was like, no, there's no way ISO's like that great. There's no way AR is that great. But no, I think this is really good. I think both variants of ISO is really, really good. I'm even hovering, putting ISO maybe up here, which I kind of want to say he is, but I can't do it out like right out of good. I mean, I honestly think he would probably be like maybe up here. I don't know where I'd put this one, but Pistol definitely is up there. ISO's early damage is so good. He abuses everything you want in a metagame right now. He abuses traps super effectively because of his passive, which you want for the final circle because people are just staying alive more because people aren't taking as many fights. ISO does have that ability to just murder people early on into the game, no matter what weapon you're going on. And with that, you could just, with Q, just dealing so much damage, no matter what weapon or build you're going on, you can just pick fights so well. You can limit third parties because of it. Your E getting that buff to the guy where dashes slightly further really helps with getting away from people, no matter what stage of the game. Your pistol skill resetting these abilities, making you just super annoying. And you can also build up the extra mastery due to your ult. You can farm trap mastery as well. ISO is just in such a good spot right now. This is a character that people are definitely sleeping on. You could go a myriad of different builds right now on him, and he is a character that I just highly recommend picking up. This character is absolutely disgusting in the current metagame, and honestly, just beautiful. Highly recommend picking up. Highly. And this goes for AR as well. AR does an obscene amount of damage with his ulti. The only issue I'd say that AR really has is that it is very squishy. Pistol can become very tanky with certain builds, and you do have a little more agency over fights because of the pistol skill. You know, reloading your weapon, giving that burst of moon speed, resetting your cooldowns. It does a lot of things for you as a character, but I do think AR is super good, and it doesn't suffer from the same problems that Aya does with AR. Your early game is stronger than Pistol's early game. The only issue is that your weapon does come back a little slower, but your routing is so fast that it doesn't even matter, to be quite honest. It's the same routing as Aya's, to be fair, with the AR, but like you could just peel for yourself a lot easier. So that's kind of what I mean by like it's faster in a sense. It's just safer, which is what I really mean. It's just safer routing because you can peel for yourself. Unlike Aya, who's just gonna be struggling, you know, she really has her E, while ISO has this Q, W, and E to peel for himself. So yeah, very strong character. Highly recommend picking him up. Lee Dai Lin. Dude, it's so weird not saying that Lee Dai Lin's broken, because the early game right now in this game is very aggressive, but the mid and late game everyone's just ratting. Lee Dai Lin's early game isn't that great, but her mid and late game is so strong that like I want to just still put her in consistent, but there really isn't anybody playing her. The people that are playing her right now are running away a ton. They aren't even trying to fight. What I'm going to be putting is like Nunchuck is okay. Nunchuck is like somewhat viable. You can play it. I don't recommend it, but it's okay. But Glove is she's still the best user of Glove in this game. And I think that if you are a good Lee Dai Lin, you are still going to be very consistent with her. I do think that you can get away with running her just fine. But I do think that she's nowhere above A tier. I don't think she's OP anymore. I think this is because more of a context of the metagame. If the metagame slows down a bit early on into the games, then I do think Lee Dai Lin would be, again, right up here. But right now, since the early game is so fast, that she is definitely not in the, hey, we need nerf her. Also, they did do just a slight bit of a nerf on her, which is going to help a decent amount. Now, Yuki. Yuki is very interesting to see, actually. Yuki is definitely all the way up here, if not here. It's very hard for me to put a character up here. I know who I want to put up there, but right now Yuki is definitely just super consistent. Plasma Sword has been a weapon that's been popping up a ton lately, and it has been doing very effective for Yuki because Hoven routes are very contested right now. So what you do is kind of just a transition where you get a very strong early game build through Plasma Sword, and you transition to Hoven later on into the game. Plasma Sword is overstated quite a bit. You can also do this with a Turtle Shell build, of course. I always forget the name. I just call it Turtle Shell build. You know what I'm talking about. But you can do this into transitioning to a Hoven or a Leviathan, which is what the top Yuki players are doing at the moment. Yuki as a character is pretty much, he can always run away from you. His Q stuns, his E runs away forever, his W resets his E mostly, he has a parry as an active. He's very safe of a character. Easily one of the best melees in the game, if not the best melee in the game right now. He is just so strong. Asian. Now this one's about to be spicy. Alright, let's be real. Shuriken sucks. Shuriken's not good. If it keeps getting buffed, it's freaking useless. Let's be real. But Bow, right now one of the best players in NA, one of the highest ranking players, is a Bow Haijin one trick. Now, this man is the anomaly here. He just keeps fighting everything. He's able to one-shot people consistently. He's always just ahead. This could do something with quality of the players, quality of matches maybe, but he's really consistent. But he's also the type of player where, you know, he either gets first, second, or third, or he dies very early on because contested routes. But Haijin is very effective at killing people. There is no CC reduction in this game right now. So you get CC'd, you're going to get CC'd into a guaranteed other CC, into a guaranteed bow skill, which hurts a ton. Her level 6 is easily one of the strongest in the game. I honestly think that she is in due time for the nerf. This could also have import due of elemental bow. I think elemental bow is stupidly strong. It is way overstated for what it is, and probably is a good time for it to get nerfed. I want to put it in the S tier. I genuinely do. But I do think that this is more of a thing that's going to take some time. I do think that it hasn't been around long enough or played enough to where I'm like, you know what, maybe this needs more time for people to play around and learn. Hey, maybe we should probably be avoiding Hyjin in forest like we should have been doing for a long time now, which people aren't doing. People are kind of just disrespecting, especially when they see the game. I learned the hard way from disrespecting him that it was a bad idea, because he's pretty much always going to be strong. And you really, the only person killing him that early into the game, maybe is Shoichi, who is ahead of him. And at that point, it's just kind of the battle forest as always. So, you know, whoever the strongest person in the forest is wins. But she is definitely up here. She is very, very consistent with what she does. She has a ton of agency over fights. She has a fear on her passive. She has the roots on her W. She has the E, which pretty much guarantees a fear into her ultimate combo into the Arrow of Rain. A good Hyjin is absolutely terrifying and is definitely somewhere up here. It is such a strong and terrifying character right now. And I don't think there's really only a couple good players in the game running her and abusing her, and have been doing incredibly well in a solo environment. She is, and what we said earlier on the tier list, a character that just has very consistent routing with a ton of agency over their fights is going to do very, very good in this game. And Hyjin is that character. Now, let's talk about our boy Zhukai. Zhukai just got buffed pretty massively. So they nerfed some damage on his ulti, but they add that power back to his E and his W, and it made no sense to me. Zhukai's already OP before. Zhukai's gonna stay OP. Zhukai is just a character that nobody's playing because he is incredibly boring. But if you have seen a Zhukai do things, he does things really, really, really well. Better than anybody else in the game. He gets free HP from his passive. He gets a ton of free extra food, or stats from the food because of the passive as well. His ultimate is still overloaded to all hell. His combo is still overloaded. Spear active is incredibly strong. He's very, very safe because he has LPO from his Q and his Z. He is a character where, unless you catch him behind, where I doubt it because his routing is so fast and effective, that you're probably gonna die to him if he runs into you. So easily one of the most disgusting characters in the game. He's just kind of boring, so nobody really plays him. But those that do play him and abuse him are absolutely terrifying people, and my god, I am not happy seeing this character. He does fit the context of the metagame where early game characters being super strong is exactly what you want. And he's very good at being very strong early on. He's very good at just, well, I mean, he has perma-scaling because of his passive, where all you need to do is cook up. And he's just going to pick up those skills you want to see early on into the game. He's going to be able to pick up kills pretty much at any stage of the game with very, very little counterplay to him right now. So, honestly, he's going to stay up here. While Lee Delin did have to move down, Zhukai will stay at the S tier. Now, Stella. Ooh, boy. So, Stella Shuriken got gutted. They nerfed Stella because you can't really guarantee your combos anymore. And it is not good. I want to say unviable, but God, it hurts me. Just, why is this? They hurt her. Like, I want to, like, it's definitely on tier of everything else. You can still play her, but fuck, they just really didn't like what Stella was doing. I mean, she'd probably be still like up here, but I am not a fan of what they did to Stella. They really just nerfed Shuriken Stella really, really bad. With the introduction to throw, Shuriken already got nerfed pretty heavily because, I mean, look at the throw weapons versus the Shuriken weapons in terms of stats. Throw is quite strong with a lot of attack power behind it, but Shuriken doesn't really have a lot of stats that Stella really cares for. She's kind of just abusing her cooldowns and like self-peeling and pressure that she can apply from her QE, but now that her Q and her E are slower, her Q being so useless right now, it makes me upset with how bad it is. That it's not very good. Oh. Also, we should talk about Stella. Stella is definitely not up here, sorry. It's definitely in the viable tier. It is good. It does a lot with the auto attacks. It does abuse this QE combo still, but at the end of the day, it is not exactly the strongest thing in the world. It did just get the nerf from the crit. What's it called? They did just rework her passive a bit so where it doesn't give you the crit anymore. So maybe it might drop. Maybe it's somewhat viable now. But I do think it's still okay. Smokescreen actually does work quite effectively with Stella. She can kind of round it very well. Her auto attacks or her passive still hurt an absolute ton, and her abilities still do decent damage. Throw is definitely going to be a little harder to route, but the damage is definitely there once you have it aligned, where unlike Shuriken, it's just kind of it's too hard to get those combos on anymore where you kind of pull people into the cow traps. That's just kind of not a thing you're doing anymore. So, you know, it is what it is, right? Fiora, S tier. Not much to say about it. Probably like this, to be quite honest. Fiora is the strongest character in this game by fucking far. My goodness, his character does everything. She is tanky, she abuses percent amp reduction items, her base damage is too high, her ultimate is overstated, her ultimate gives her free health, is an execute for crying out loud. It just makes no sense why it's so strong. This character does not receive nerfs where she needs them. She keeps receiving nerfs in everywhere else. She just keeps doing everything, quite literally everything. This is easily one of the most boring characters in the game in my opinion, but she is a very, I keep doing this all day, very strong at what she does, which is everything. The only weakness she has is her PvE kind of sucks. Also, rapier skill, guaranteeing her E, guaranteeing her ultimate, guaranteeing her Q, guaranteeing her full rotation from click and point, which should be skill shots, are very, very long. Her E is massive range, and literally I can't jump out of it as a Jackie, which is kind of a little weird. Her ultimate being the execute that it is, resetting on kills essentially. This character has way too much on her kit. She's honestly the mistake child of Eternal Return. But you know, hey, she's here. She does need nerfs. Pretty bad. Please nerf her already. Anyone playing the Missile Time like tank build is kind of where you should be. The people playing like Volsetto crit are doing it wrong. I don't know why people are playing that. It's okay, it's still Fiora, but let's be real, the Missile Time build is just a million times better. Now, Adriana. Ooh, this one's interesting. So Adriana had as the worst character in the game for a long time. I do think that there are a couple people that are making good use out of her right now. And her damage being buffed by 3% across the board is actually pretty huge. I want to put her in the viable tier as I don't think she's actually that bad. I think her rounding is cleared up quite well. I do think she is able to disengage from a lot of fights and even pick up those early kills if you're doing decent pathing. Now, it is always a little bit of a weird thing because I think if her routes get contested, she's suddenly really bad again. But since they're not being contested, I do think she does fall into the viable tier. Probably the bottom of the viable tier, almost like just somewhat viable. But I do think she can pick up those skills early on. If given the right situation, she's incredibly powerful when fighting in like certain corridors. And it's also kind of just a deadly character. She's very good at ratting as well, where if she sees noise, she can pick up fights from across the map, essentially, because that's how massive her range is. I do think this character is actually not as bad as people give it credit for. People like Flambo, and there's a Korean guy who's been climbing quite high over her with very specific builds to abuse her early game strength. Her early game strength is very, very strong. Her auto attack damage is very painful coming from throw, and it's also very long range as well. So this is the type of character where I think it does take time to learn her, but she is very effective when she is online. Ooh, Shoichi. Alright, so again, if you know, and you do watch the stream, you kind of understand I am biased. I absolutely adore Shoichi with every facet of my being. This character is awesome, but his routings are absolutely terrible. This is a character that's going to test your routing knowledge pretty heavily. And it's going to be a type of character where it's going to be like, you start temple, you miss half the things you need, and you're like, okay, I need to figure out where to go now. And that happens pretty much every game with this character. You very rarely get all your stuff you need because temple's contested, school's contested, forest is contested. So there's a lot of things, and you have to avoid things that die because you're a character with zero agency in fights. But if you are able to get online, your damage is absolutely crazy. And the moment you have Dagger skill, you do get that agency that you were missing from fights prior. So this is a character where if you are able to start the early game, you can do very good things, but he is still a very squishy melee mage that is, you know, some words you don't really want to hear in this game, because you are going to be taking a lot of damage in fights no matter what, so you are very susceptible to being third-partied. You're also very susceptible to just dying very early in the game. You are susceptible to just getting screwed over from your routing in general. But I do think he is viable, but very low in the viable tier. I do think if you're able to get him online, he's very strong. It's just surviving that early game is so painful. He's the type of character where he gets first or 18th and there's really no in between. And I don't really recommend first solos environment, but he is very fun in my opinion. He is honestly one of the funnest characters in the game. I would probably put him somewhere up here, to be quite honest, rather than over here, but it's hard. This is definitely my bias showing, 100%. I'm just gonna throw this out there because I do play so much of this character. I do think he's definitely a character that is viable. He's not bad enough to the point where it's like, hey, don't play him. But If you do need a mental fortitude of a god to stick with this character long term, because oh my bad, I got Dagger. Because he is that type of character where it's like, hey, if you do die early on, you're gonna feel really bad. Because there's just times people walk up to you, like, guess I die, can't run away. So, you know, he's probably somewhere in the middle of the pack, to be quite honest. I probably wouldn't put him over kids that actually do have agency, so he'd probably be somewhere around here. Now, Sylvia. She's been buffed so many freaking times. Sylvia is a very, very strong character, and I am easily throwing her up here in the consistent tier. She has multiple build paths. She can go. She can use Electron Blaster. She can use Magnum Bow and tanky builds. She could do Elegance tanky builds. Her level 6 is really good. Really, really, really good. Absolutely terrifyingly good. She has insane disengage. She has really good engage. She has really good damage. Her pistol skill resets are insane because they work for a motorcycle as well. She scales quite well if you were playing her properly. I think this character is absolutely great. I do think she's definitely better than Aya. Probably better than her in my opinion. I think she's somewhere up here. Sylvia has been buffed an absolute ton from where she last was. So I am very happy to move her up on the tier list. And yeah, I'm quite happy for her. Oh, I forgot to put Dual Sword Yuki. Dual Sword Yuki is, yeah, it's kind of more the same name. It does a lot of damage when you're able to get the opportunities, but at that point, you might as well just play two-handed. It's okay. I mean, it's probably, like, here. Maybe better than Fiora. I don't know. It's okay. I love it. I think it's fun as heck, but it's not very good. Let's be real with each other. It did just get a buff, so maybe it's okay, but I don't know about that one. Once you use your Rampage and your ulti, you really don't have any damage, so it's okay. Also, it's Temple Star, which, don't want to be a Temple Sword in this game if you could avoid it. Temple School is not very fun to do. Zhukai. It is still the Zhukai, but you're now going from a good weapon to a worse routing, going from 2 zones to 3 zones. It's not very good in my opinion. It's somewhat viable. You can play it. It's still Zhukai, but it is definitely not as good as Spear. But on the bright side, you do get the routing capabilities that Dagger just always gives you. So if you are that type of player where you like playing very slow and, you know, white flagging your teammates, well, teammates, white flagging your opponents in the arena, well, maybe that's the type of build you like. Emma, our newest girl on the block. Well, I'll be quite honest, I have yet to see Emma do anything. I was really hoping Emma was going to be a type of character where she's very situationally strong, but when Emma came out, people were just abusing her passive to be a crit character that was eventually just nerfed and removed from the game, essentially. But at the same time, Emma's early damage is pretty good. But she does get kind of eaten up by people. She has the same problem Shuichi has, where you can't run away from fights early enough because you have 0 agency. Her projectile on her E is pathetic. It's very slow. Her escape isn't online until level 6, which is kind of just okay at that point. It's not too great or anything to write home about. And it does cost 2 abilities, where every other character just kind of needs 1. Mid and late game, she's very strong, but her early game just doesn't feel like it's there. I am very hesitant to put her in viable because I do think you can play her, but I think you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you do. I do think right now she's honestly just a much worse version of just playing Heijun. They kind of play very similar, and I just think Heijun does a million times better. So I'm going to put her in the somewhat viable tier, at least the highest point of it. I don't think she's that great. Maybe given some time and people maybe learn some routing with her, people play her more, we can see her move up in the list. But right now, I'm not seeing it. Genuinely, I'm not. I think this is where I would put her. I do believe the routing is okay, but I don't know. She just doesn't feel too great right now to me. If I were to see changes to her, I would like to see her ulti actually feel more impactful. I just feel like I never use it on my E, and I never use it on my Q. I only use it on the hat. That's the only thing to use it on. Pretty much all she read, teleport to your hat, and drag your enemies in. Your Q and E are just never up when you need to use it, and you're just very squishy, and your damage just feels okay. You need a lot of time for it. I don't know. The count trap doesn't feel too great either. There's just a lot of things this character just doesn't feel too great right off the bat. And I'm kind of sad, because she actually is very cool on paper, but in practice, she doesn't really do a whole lot. But this is kind of what I view the solos metagame as at the moment. Again, these are my opinions from what I've been playing at, which was kind of like the highest ranking at that point. I do plan on spamming ranked more off stream because I do enjoy it. I'm planning on doing a Shoichi only climb, so I might have some highlight videos of that when I do it, because, you know, I did it with Jackie the first time around and I wasn't enjoying it too much. And I was like, hey, you know, people really want to see the content creator be high ranked. And it's like, nah, the rank queue's like, fuck it forever. It's not even worth it. I'll just do it while I'm like jamming out and playing something else. But yeah, this is kind of where I view the solos metagame at the moment in the high tier perspective. If you do enjoy the video, you know, feel free to leave a like down below. Leave a comment of what you want to see next. I am going to be making some meta videos really soon, and we will be covering some characters that we have yet to be covered. Not that many left, so I'm just saying. But aside from the meta videos, what would you guys like to see? What videos interest you? What videos you think you're like, you know what, maybe we need this? I know people talk about general guides, but I'll be quite honest, like general guides that don't do very well. Like the food guide, while I am pretty proud of that video, it didn't exactly like pull the numbers we would like to see. So, you know, I would like to know what you guys would like to see from these type of videos moving forward. But yeah, that's gonna be all for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the tier list, and I will see you all tomorrow with a new video.